Thanks for everyone for coming. We have a nice crowd here, and a nice crowd both in the audience and here on the panel. We've never had a panel of this many people before, and so it's an experiment, but we are not new to experimentation, and I'm confident this one will work out nicely. So we're going to go through some opening stuff quickly. We're going to have people introduce themselves. We'll pass the mic around, and we'll get started with some quick presentations and discussion. So this is the first time for how many people here? 54%. Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. So welcome to Net Squared, and we'll see if the clicker will work. There are a bunch of Net Squared groups around the world, and they are all affiliated with TechSoup Global, the global service provider for nonprofit technology based out in San Francisco. They have generally different sorts of themes, but basically are in some way helping nonprofits and using technology, and specifically something to do with the social web. The way that we put it is using the social web for social change, as broadly defined as that is. The main activity that we do is these Net Tuesday groups, Net Tuesday gatherings, which happen on the first Tuesday of every month, and then the second Tuesday is a planning meeting. We also have a website and a Google group listserv that people use to make announcements, ask questions, and otherwise try and connect with other like-minded people. As I said, we do this every month, and here's the last year of activities that we've been doing. You can see that many of them are on different topics that could be of relevance to folks who are interested in using social media or social networking technology for some sort of nonprofit or social change sort of event. You'll see a couple of themes in here, a couple of recurring themes that we have. One is crowdsourcing change, which we're doing now every quarter, in which we invite people in local nonprofits to come, share their web presence, and then get feedback from the crowd about that. Last month we had the Support Center for Child Advocates and National Constitution Center, and we'll be doing that again coming up. In fact, we'll be doing that in November. So if you are affiliated with a nonprofit that you're interested in possibly being the subject of one of these events in November, then you can go to that URL there and fill in a form to basically apply for that. But before that happens in October, we're doing another less frequently recurring theme, which is the social web sampler, which is a whole different sort of thing, wherein it's sort of like an unconference, and anybody who wants to can volunteer to lead a 20-minute group, and we'll have 5 simultaneous 20-minute groups in 3 different sessions. So that's effectively 15 little conferences happening 5 simultaneously. If we have enough, we'll do 6. And it's kind of a fast-paced, fun sort of thing. You don't have to be an expert in any area of social web technology or anything, but if you have an interest in it and would like to actually lead a 20-minute discussion on it, then you're welcome to do so. And the URL for applying for that is there as well. Both of these URLs are on the back of your tags, and you can keep that for future reference. In addition to what's happening in the room, we are streaming this live on the internet through that camera. That camera is broken. So we only have one camera working right now, and as I said, we are streaming that. That's the link for it, or two ways to get to it. And we're also supporting a Twitter back channel with the hashtag of PHLNET2. And Andrew Sather back there is monitoring the Twitter back channel. Say hi, Andrew. Oh, he is sure he is. So, and that's Andrew. So he's watching the Twitter back channel, and if comments or questions come in from the cyberspace, he will vocalize them into the room here. So the other thing is that we're all about networking here. So we want people to meet one another, make connections, and hopefully do some things that happen beyond our activities this evening. So for one thing, please sign the sign-in sheet and try and make your name and email as legible as possible. I'll take that information and send out people's contact information back out to the people in the room, and only to the people in the room. So it's not a spam sort of thing, but it's a way of getting that word out there to the rest of the people who have come tonight, as well as if you leave a business card or fill in a blank card because you don't have a business card or you have some other identity that is more meaningful for you tonight. You can fill in a business card. Again, we'll scan those and send that out to everybody who's here. So you basically have everyone's business card. Most people are wearing tags, and you're encouraged to do so. So this not only identifies who you are, but something else about you, and you're encouraged to ask people about where they grew up or where they live now, if that is a way to open up a conversation. And we have a strict no questions too stupid policy that we want to make sure that people will feel comfortable being able to vocalize any kinds of questions they want. A little bit of housekeeping really quickly. There's food over there. Please eat it. We don't want to have anything left over. The Friends Center is a Platinum LEED certified building. We do a lot of composting here, and all of the food and plates, cups, and silverware is all compostable, even the meats and cheeses. So please abide by that if you can. The bathrooms are outside in the hallway right past the elevators. We have Wi-Fi access in this room under the Friends Guest Network. As I mentioned, we are video recording this. We don't really have a video-free area because we're only using that camera at this point. But we will be using microphones, both with the panelists and with the audience. And we ask you to wait for a microphone before you speak, not so much that you can be heard within the room, but so that it can be picked up through the stream and on the recording. If you parked across the street, across 15th Street, go to the front desk and have your card validated for cheaper parking. And everyone is invited to come out afterwards for a drink and a bite if they would like to continue the conversation more informally. Our sponsor is the American Friends Service Committee, an international NGO that does peace and social justice activity around the world, and is one of the tenants here in the Friends Center. There are about 20 tenants in this campus here. And that's essentially it. So we're going to get started in a moment. As I said, we're going to do quick introductions. And what I'd like to encourage people to do with the introductions is to say who you are. And although we have 7 people sitting up here, this is not where all the expertise is. Because I know for a fact there are people in the audience who are managing and doing various things having to do with the social web and their neighborhoods or local communities. So introduce yourself, and if you are involved with or have some sort of connection with something that resonates with this theme, please let us know about it.
My name is Jim Smiley. I'm an applications developer in Philly. I also run with my father the Frankfurt Gazette up in Frankfurt. We're a hyperlocal blog serving the, economically challenged neighborhood of Frankfurt.
Hi, I'm Jim Worster. I'd like to promote the fact that there's going to be a Haverford Music Festival in Havertown this Saturday, all day, 40 musicians. It's free. They close down the whole town, so come along.
Medard Gable. I run a small nonprofit peace and social action group that is trying to use social media to connect and strengthen local communities. We're based in Wilmington.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Sharp. I'm a freelance writer for the nonprofit news website Generosity, generosity.org. I'm a regular attendee of the Philly Net Squared meetups, and I'm very excited for this one.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Weaver. I'm a hotel manager in the city of Wilmington. I live in Glen Olden now, and I've never been to one of these events before, and I'm really interested in learning what social media can do to help the community, especially that I work in Wilmington. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Bellato. I'm a pharmacy student at Temple. I run the professional social activities there, also the political legislative, and I'm also leader of an LGBT health professional student group in Philly, encompassing pharmacy, medicine, nursing at Penn, Temple, Drexel, Pecan, Jefferson. Yeah.
Hi, I'm John Ashmead. I'm an independent web and database consultant, currently working, among other projects, on a app to integrate social media with GIS systems.
Hi there, I'm Harold Pugh. I work here at the American Friends Service Committee, and mostly with SharePoint, but interested in finding out more about all these social media outlets that are available. So.
My name's Andrew Thompson, and I'm community evangelist for Azavia. We're a small software company here in Philly, B Corporation, and we make geographic software for more vibrant and sustainable communities.
Hi, I'm Allison Letts, and I'm a development associate at Friends General Conference.
I'm Vivek Anandan, Asian American. I've been living here for the last 42 years. I work with a bunch of organizations inside and outside the country. Also, I work with the United Nations. I'm an activist. I'm also with the Occupy.
Hi, my name's Kerry Bedigal. I work in digital marketing, and then my friends and I are also working on a website called Possible City that reimagines the way we use vacant space in Philly, and we're releasing it on Monday to go live.
My name is Judy Wicks. I'm a happily retired entrepreneur, and my particular interest is in building sustainable local economies.
Hi, I'm Pat Osimo, and I'm from I'm here as part of Transition Town Media. We're building resilient communities in many ways, and I'm not using social media in any way close to what I know is possible. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lundgren, and I'm with Pat, as well as these two guys in front of us who are all a part of Transition Town Media, where we are working to develop social media outreach to develop a more resilient future and connect with as many people as we can.
Hi, my name is Emma Fried-Casorla. I run a blog called Philly Love Notes, which uses social media extensively. I try and get the word out about Philly in a positive light. In my day job, I'm the communications manager for the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation, so I do a lot of neighborhood work out there.
Emma's being slightly modest. The Philly Love Notes site is what was scrolling prior to during the gathering, and it's a really cool site that she's put together here.
Hi there, I'm Vanessa Lowe, and probably the most social media I'm involved in a group in Mount Airy that's trying to develop a co-housing community.
Hi, I'm Angel Say. I am with Germantown Life and Richmond Center and also Price Street Neighbors Association, and I'm a social worker by profession.
Good evening. My name is Antoine Haywood. I'm the Membership and Outreach Director at PhillyCam, and we operate the public access cable channels and facilities, production facilities here in Philly. And I'm also a video producer and very interested in how communities are using, various technologies to communicate and connect.
Hello, I'm Nicole Johnson. I'm a health planner at the Office of HIV Planning.
Brianna Morgan. I work with Nicole at the Office of HIV Planning, which is not terribly well named. And I manage our website and our social media presence. And I'm also the president of the local chapter of an alumni club.
Hi, I'm Sean Belton. I am a Social Capital Area Leader, HMC Square Association. I'm also a communications team member, and I'm looking to learn a little bit more about how to get the word out in the community that I live in about the association.
Hey guys, my name is Rebecca Winkler, and I work for Get Healthy Philly. I try not to say the Philadelphia Department of Health because it's like the least sexy thing out there to advertise social media for, but I do our social media content primarily for childhood nutrition and tobacco prevention.
Hi, my name is Ingrid Shepard, and I'm the founder and executive director of the One Less Foundation, and also I'm an active member of the Living in Germantown Facebook group.
How y'all doing? I'm Carl Day, the founder of an organization called Culture Changing Christians, and I'm excited to see how these organizations up here connect through social media, because we do a lot of community work, and that's what we base our organization about. Mobilizing through communities to promote peace, love, and unity. So anything that we can do to strengthen our community relationships and ties would be a help.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Smith-Brown, and I'm from the Institute for Safe Families, and I work on our web presence.
Hi, I'm
Pete Hitchcock. I'm in Drexel's clinical psych program.
My name is Greg Kaplan. I'm a student at Drexel School of Public Health, and I am also working at the Thomas J. Scattergood Foundation, which is located in this building. We work in behavioral and mental health.
I'm Sarah. This is Hannah. We're from Inverse Paradox, a small web design and development company. We have a lot of nonprofit organizations that we help do their websites with, so we thought maybe we'd come and see how else we can help them out. And we also run a nonprofit pub crawl called Brews for Boobies that all the money gets donated to breast cancer. So we're trying to get some ways to push that in social media.
Hi, I'm Rama Nathan. I'm an independent events planner, and I also work with nonprofit organizations and help them with web development, fundraising, and grant writing. So I would just like to know how how I can use social media to help the organizations even better. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Scully. I currently work for Temple University, and I am interested in community engagement and how social media can accomplish this.
Hello, my name is Joe Rosato. I've been heading to this now for maybe 6-7 months, so I'm keeping up with heading to the group. I am involved with information technology and also have my own theater group.
My name is Carl Dash. I'm a revenue consultant for hospitality organizations, and I guess people also consider me a civic entrepreneur of some sort.
Hi, my name is Avi Satlow. I'm a founder of a nonprofit called Avi Cares.
Hi, my name is Lamar Kendrick, interested in creating community online and off, and a regular attendee of this event.
Hi, I'm Ruth Seeley, retired from AFSC and now president of the Friends of Vernon Park in Germantown. We're involved in green projects and stormwater management now too. One of our problems is that maybe about 40% of the people in the community have no access to the internet.
I'm Margaret Lindsay. I'm doing outreach for the Shalom Center to get information out about the events coming up. And I've also worked with a lot of other community events, and I'm interested in strengthening my social media skills.
I'm Stan Shapiro with Neighborhood Networks, which is a political networking group for neighborhoods, and also administer the website for Philadelphia Move On Council.
Kelsey Legidal. I'm a freelance web content writer for a hospital, and I also work on creating content for SheTechPhilly.com, a resource website for all things women in tech in Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Paolo Pizzata. I support community development.
Paul Indorf, Swarthmore Friends meeting. We're a Quaker meeting on the campus of Swarthmore College, looking to do a little outreach to the students.
I'm Christine Cavalier. I'm Purple Car Online. I've been very active in social media. I'm a web content writer. I'm a writer, journalist about psychology and technology. I have a new community blog that I started, and I know how to share it, but I'm not sure how to run it.
Hi, my name's Mary. I'm a contract project manager at the University of Penn, and your happy registrar. And don't forget your business cards.
My name is Andrew Sather. I work at a small private membership law library downtown called Jenkins Law Library. And as Seth said earlier, I will be the voice of the internet today. So I'm following Twitter, and I'm following your hashtags PHLNet2, and I hope to hear from you online.
I'm Steve Lubetkin. Some of you know me as Podcast Steve on Twitter. I am the managing partner of a firm called Lubetkin Media Companies. We help companies and other clients tell their stories with sound and images, and by that we mean audio, video, and photography, and we help people integrate that with their web and their social media.
In all the excitement of registration, someone left a phone at the front desk, so if one person wants to stand up and come get their phone, double check.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Anyone didn't have a chance to speak? Okay, we're going to get moving here. First, before we do that, I just wanted to acknowledge that Andrew Sather, Andy Sharp, and Brianna Morgan were the three people who really put together this panel tonight, and they did a nice job of trying to hustle and get a bunch of people together, and we didn't think we'd have many people, and then we had too many, and it worked out really nicely. We have quite a nice crowd of people here. But as I said, it's unprecedented for us to have quite this many people. So we're setting a couple of rules that we haven't set in the past for panels. And so we're going to have strict 10-minute time limits for initial comments. People have kind of drawn straws to see who goes first. We'll do 10 minutes, and Andy has agreed to be the timekeeper, so we'll keep to that. And we'd like to have people try and hold their questions to the end. And I know that's going to be frustrating, but try and write them down and remember them. And that way we can try and make sure that we can get through everyone in an hour, or just a little bit more than an hour, and have enough time left over for conversation, questions, and other folks who want to contribute to the general discussion. So, everyone agree to those rules? Not that you have a lot of choice, but... Okay, so our first speaker, by the luck of the draw, is going to be Kim Massara from the Lower Moyamensing Civic Association. And why don't you tell us what you want to tell us? Are you going to share anything on the...
Sure, yeah, I do.
Okay, if we can push that toward her, the whole machine.
Okay, I think she's just... Are you showing the front, or are you going to show the... this is the page?
There was one other page I was just going to put up. Sorry.
Do you want to switch spots with me?
Yeah, maybe. Would that make sense?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Oh, there you
go. Okay, we'll start a clock now.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, my name is Kim, and I have the thankless job of being the president of a small civic association in South Philly. Our boundaries, our focus area for our civic association is Snyder to Oregon and Broad to 8th Street. So we're deep south. And as I said in my bio, when I'm not president of our civic association, or wearing that hat, I'm a communications manager at Bartram's Garden. So I'm sort of in that world a lot of the time. So I just wanted to share some of our successes, some of our challenges, some of the strategies we've used, and I look forward to the questions afterwards. So some of our big successes have been the fact we have over 1,000 friends on Facebook. That's amazing. I attribute that to aggressively befriending people. And not just anyone. I mean, I really do look for lots of mutual friends and opportunities to make friends with people on the internet. So that's been a huge help for us as a civic association. We have absolutely no marketing, any sort of dollars to put toward that. And Facebook has been like a wonderful free tool for that. So we've connected with a lot of people that, I wouldn't meet any other way. But I do hear there was a woman who mentioned that, she lives in a neighborhood where 40% of the people in the neighborhood don't have access to the internet. And that's absolutely something that we struggle with as well. A little bit about our neighborhood. I mean, our neighborhood, relatively speaking, has been a stable neighborhood. I grew up in our neighborhood. I live in the house that was my grandfather's house. My mom grew up in that house. And it's not, we don't have a lot of vacant land. We don't have a lot of issues that other parts of the city are facing, but we do have a lot of new people who are moving into the neighborhood, people who have those smartphones and who communicate that way. But there are a lot of people, senior citizens, especially in the neighborhood, who don't have the internet. So that's always a question that we, and I personally am always asking, who are we communicating to, and are we trying our best to get our ways out in all the ways that we can? So, yes, we have 1,000 friends on Facebook, but I also try to make sure that we are, reaching out to our local newspaper, the South Philly Review, who happens to have an office in our neighborhood, so they're very good and friendly to us. So they post things for our about what's going on with our civic association in there. We put flyers up on polls. We're going to be embarking on our first ever newsletter this fall because we're not reaching everyone this way. So you just have to be sure that this is part of an integrated approach if you're really trying to engage everyone in your neighborhood, because everyone is not on the internet. So successes. We have over 1,000 friends, like I mentioned. We recently raised over $27,000 in 60 days to fund a new greening plan for South Philadelphia High School, which was amazing. I'm still blown away by that, even when I say that. This is a new site called Projexity, and it was founded by a couple of UPenn grads who are now based in Toronto. But this money, we're going to be working with a Mount Airy-based firm, Roof Meadow, to create a new master plan for South Philadelphia High School, which will include a rooftop farm. So that's pretty major success. We raised that amount of money with close to 200 sponsors. Other successes, I would say that people sharing news, like when I see shares, like 40 people have shared this or 80 people have shared this, like that's a huge success for us. That means that we're sharing information that is relevant and it's timely. And, our weekly paper comes out once a week. But I have my phone with me all the time. I have a 7-month-old baby, so I'm not on my phone as much as I used to be. But, we can get news out there much, much quicker. So some challenges have been, number one, that I'm a volunteer, that I have a 7-month-old baby. So I really have been trying to find more people out in the neighborhood to help us put messages out there, but it's tricky. It's tricky to do that because it's a challenge to find your voice on Facebook. We are a civic association. It's not my personal page. I'm not posting my opinions out there. I'm trying to stay as neutral as I can on a lot of issues, and there are controversial issues that come up from time to time. Recently, there was a Suboxone clinic that opened in our neighborhood, and people were outraged about this, and people were looking to our civic association to share information about this. And when we shared neutral information, people were outraged that we were not taking a stance against this clinic. So that was a real challenge for me. That happened over 4th of July weekend, and I was there managing the Facebook posts that were coming up. People were wanting us to come out strong against this. Our councilman was involved. He was posting about this. So as a volunteer, this is a struggle. It's if you're going to put information out there, be prepared to respond to it in a timely fashion, because people want to be responded to that way. I would say some tips that I've found. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Hootsuite, but it's a really great way to schedule posts during a time when you're not going to have your phone on you or be able to put stuff up there. So that's a great website to check out. I would also say, these sorts of platforms are great for conversations. Ask questions that you would want to answer. Don't ask leading questions. Like, genuinely ask a question that you would want to answer, and be ready for all those responses when they start pouring in. I'd also say don't be afraid to be silly. I love to post photos of cats in windows in our neighborhood, and people love that. Like 40 people shared a photo of a really goofy looking cat in our neighborhood. So be silly. Don't be afraid to be silly. That's part of the voice that I would encourage you to find. And like I said too, just remember, who are you not reaching? Because that's an important part of of reaching out to your neighborhood. So that's about it.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. You came in a little under time, which is great. Let's see if we can keep that up. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, next up is Mike Lyons from the West Philly Local.
Hi. Could you just pull up the site, Kim? It's one of the tabs there. My wife and I run West Philly Local, which is a hyper-local news site in West Philadelphia. During the day, I'm a professor at St. Joseph's in the digital media department there, and this is what I do at all other times. My wife runs this. It's her full-time job. We have children, too, so she's running this site. We started in 2009, the winter of 2009. We soft launched. We ran it for about 2 months before we told anybody about it, just so we had some content up there when people actually came to the site for the first time. So we soft launched it in the winter of 2009. Since then, it's grown, and we had a we're obviously a for-profit site. We take advertising. The way we approached advertising when we launched was we're not going to take advertising for a year. And people offered to pay us to be on the site. We held off for advertising for a year because we wanted to make sure how we wanted to do it. Because I think if you come barreling out of the gate with a bunch of ads, you're not going to build the kind of community that you probably want to build. We now get about, as far as numbers go, we have about 3,000 Facebook fans, 2,800 Twitter followers. We get about 2,000 unique visitors a day. We don't make a lot of money. Goes without saying. I liked Kim's point of don't be afraid to be silly. I mean, I guess the way we approach social media is, I mean, it's all social media, right? Our site is social media. The posts we put up are social media. How do we define that? Is it Facebook, Twitter? Is it Pinterest? I mean, we're of course we're on all those. But I think we treat our site as a social site. We encourage comments. Comments are content, is what we always try to say. I think the key of managing social media for us is understanding that the communities on these different platforms are different communities. Our Facebook followers, 3,000 of them, probably 70% are, we know this through analytics, are females between the age of 25 and 34. And that probably, and I would say if we could do race, it would probably be 70% Caucasian. And that's the other trick that I think a lot of us are going to probably talk about, and that is you live in a big city like this that covers a lot of different areas. How do you bridge these different communities, which are based on class, ethnicity, race, whatever? Our coverage area goes from Market to roughly Woodland Avenues in West Philly, the river to 58th, 57th Street, something like that. We don't really cover Penn or Drexel. We cover them as an institution that employs people that live in our area. We don't cover them as we don't promote them, really. We don't cover them as a student might want us to cover them. We cover them as an employer people work for. The things that one thing I would say, when we started this, the first thing we did, I was a journalist for 20 years before I did this. My wife was a journalist. I was a correspondent for the Associated Press. My wife is Russian. We met in Russia. So we kind of knew how to do this. We can't run a business to save our asses, though, which is kind of the problem here. So we attend conferences all over the country trying to figure out how to run this as a business, because it's not kind of what we're good at, right? And I think we're in the boat of a lot of people who do these kind of things. They're unemployed or laid off journalists who love journalism, love the place they live in, and trying to make a go of it as a business, and it's tricky. One thing I would say as far as tips go is the first thing we did is we mapped out the media ecosystem in that part of the city we live in. And so by the media ecosystem, I mean we mapped out, we did this on a whiteboard, we mapped out listservs. You know, email's still the killer app. You know, it's the one we always forget about, but that's how you organize people, right? Is email still rules. We mapped out civic associations. What you know, in our neighborhood, it's Cedar Park, it's Spruce Hill, all these neighborhood civic associations. They all have Twitter, they all have Facebook. We try to figure out how we use those, how we fit into that ecosystem that includes, you know, the 48th Street Neighbors, which is 2 blocks of 48th Street that has its own listserv. You know, we use them all the time, and there's a ton of those around. So anybody that wants to do something like this or cover a neighborhood, I think it's important to figure out where you fit into this ecosystem and to get the rest of those those players in this ecosystem working with you rather than against them. You know, the Spruce Hill Civic Association is not our enemy, for sure. Although they have a website, they're a news provider. You know, as Kim said, they're an information and news provider. But we're all trying to get the same conversations going, I think. As far as successes and failures go, I'm just going to use Kim's template because that was good. So successes and failures, I think successes we have had is I think we've started some conversations, particularly things around education. Education is tricky in our neighborhood, as in all neighborhoods, but we have one elementary K through 8 school, Penn Alexander, which is funded by Penn, which is, you know, kind of the shining star of elementary schools or one of them at least in the city. But it has a very tightly defined catchment area, so only people that live in that area go to the school. That area has gone from 50% African American to probably 20% African American over the last 5 years. And so that's where our failures are, is our continuing inability, and if anybody can unlock this for me, I would be forever grateful. Our continuing inability to be the kind of site that bridges racial, ethnic, class, economic divides. That's kind of what we wanted to do when we started this site, and we are still struggling to do that. Social media has helped us a little bit because, as we mentioned, somebody mentioned 40% of their neighborhoods not online. I think that's probably, it's much higher, it's much lower than that in our neighborhood. But everybody has, we were talking about this earlier, everybody has, almost everybody has a phone that we're targeting for this. So on Twitter, we see a lot more African Americans, I think, or Hispanics or Muslims engaging with our site versus on the site itself. And I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if Twitter, maybe you guys know better than me, if Twitter is a site that's built that way. It's more because of the short nature of the post that it works better like that. I'm not sure. One thing we have done, as I mentioned earlier, is we've treated all these social media sites differently. The Facebook people are different than the Twitter people, and the Twitter people are different than the people that actually converse on the site. And we treat them differently. We send different messages to Facebook than we do to Twitter. We have a 20-80 rule. 20% of the things we tweet out or on Facebook, more so on Twitter, are actually links to our site. 80% are cute cats and windows and funny things that start conversations. That's how I think you build community. You don't build community by just spamming people, by just using Facebook and Twitter as a marketing tool, which is what a lot of large news organizations in the city do. I can think of a couple, but I won't say, that just use it to push their content out. And I think that's just a gross misuse of what these platforms are for and the potential that they have. I don't know. I'm forgetting a lot of things, but I hope to learn from you guys in this. So thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Next up is going to be Tim Wisniewski. Tim Wisniewski. How do you pronounce that?
I usually say Wisniewski.
Okay. Great. What? Right, but we switched things over. Okay, so you are. And do you want to get access to the computer?
Yeah. Is it that one over there? Okay. Thanks. Oh no, don't look.
You want us not to look?
There we go. I guess that's that.
You ready? Okay.
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 Thought there was a present button. Hi guys, I'm Tim Wisniewski. I'm the Director of Civic Technology for the City of Philadelphia. For those of you wondering what the heck is that, basically, I get to help connect residents to government and try to improve processes by using cheap and easy technology. My background, though, is actually in community building. I've always just kind of been a geek on the side. Now it seems I'm a geek full time, but previously I worked in Frankfurt at the Frankfurt Special Services District, where we tried to improve commerce along the business corridor there. And I was on the board of the Frankfurt Civic Association, and I'm one of the founding organizers of the Somerset Neighbors Civic Association. So it's a strong passion of mine, community building, and I particularly like when the lines sort of intersect with technology and we can leverage technology for community building. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about 4 tools that I've used in community building, technology tools that I think just about anybody can use. You don't really need a technology background. So to give you some context for the first couple tools here, this is, the red dot is Kensington and Somerset. Sure. I'll tell you what, I'll move in like this, and I'll also speak a lot louder. Is that good? Okay, great. So the red dot there is Kensington and Somerset. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, until a few months ago, was the #1 drug corner in the city. And I live in the next neighborhood over, Port Richmond, and I'm on the Police District Advisory Council for that district. And we realized that that neighborhood had no community meetings, no regular community meetings whatsoever. So the neighbors really didn't have a venue to communicate with the police of all neighborhoods. I mean, it really needed that, let alone communicate with each other. So we partnered with the New Kensington CDC and Philly Rising, and we decided we were going to build a civic association there from scratch, so to speak. So we put together an action plan. And we started knocking on doors, and we got people to come out to this meeting, and it worked. The first meeting, we had 35, 40 people there. The second meeting, we had 50 people. By the third meeting, we had 90 people there. And since then, we've had between 30 and 50, and it's been almost 2 years now. So door knocking is great, but as many of you guys know, it's a little inefficient, and especially when you're doing it as a volunteer and you're kind of working with people, you don't have that much time. So we wanted to make sure that what we were doing when we were door knocking was as efficient as possible. So we took these sign-in sheets. So this is the area that we canvassed. It's a concentrated area, but it's quite a number of doors. So we took these sign-in sheets here, and you can see we ask for their address and their cell phone number. So you guys probably do this in your civic associations and then maybe type this into Excel. Right? So what we did is we copied and pasted what we were already typing up in Excel, and we pasted it into a website called batchgeo.com. You literally just copy and paste it. And then you hit that Map Now button, and you have this. So all of a sudden, those doors that you were knocking on, you can see literally which ones came out. So if, let's say we had it sectioned off, so this person would handle this area, this person would handle this area, we can see, okay, maybe we need to spend a little more time in this area, or maybe this area, we're good. We don't even need to go back there next month, and that sort of thing. So the amount of time we were spending was being used as efficiently as possible. And it's very easy to use. Whether you're doing it from door knocking or social media outreach, if you have sign-in sheets, this helps measure your effectiveness. The next thing I want to talk about, so again, as much fun as it is, it's not really sustainable to be door knocking, particularly if you've ever done it in the winter months of Philadelphia. So ideally, we wouldn't have to do that. Ideally, we make contact once, and then from then on, we can just communicate with them electronically. Most people would use email, but unfortunately, in a neighborhood like this, a lot of people don't have access to email or a computer at home. There's a significant digital divide. And email just isn't the best means of contact sometimes. But just about everybody has a cell phone. So I built a tool called Text Blast that essentially works like an email blast, but for text messaging. So basically, you create your group in here, you add your recipients, you write up a message, and bam, you just blasted a message to a couple hundred people. And that's free to use at textblast.org. Let's see. The next thing I want to talk about, I want to squeeze 2 more in here. just two applications that I've had the opportunity to work on at the city. So the first one is a 311 mobile app. Now, I assume that everyone here already has it on their smartphone, but just in the hypothetical situation that someone doesn't, I'll explain how it works. So you can take a picture of something like a broken street sign or a stoplight or a pothole or a building with construction violations on it and report that instantly to the city. It gets your phone's GPS location, and then you get a pop-up when the city does something about it or there's a comment. And it goes a little further in that you can actually interact with other people on there. So the ways I've seen it used at community meetings for community building is when you're at a civic association meeting, say, and someone tells you about an issue in the neighborhood, rather than writing it down or telling them who to get in touch with or having them email you, you can just pull out your phone. You can actually do it right there. It takes like a minute, and then you have a tracking number, and you can let them know when it gets updated, or they can follow it themselves on their phone. So you can see nearby issues that have been reported in your neighborhood, and you can follow them, you can vote on them, and you can comment on them and actually have a conversation with somebody about the pothole on your block. And I personally, what I've seen is that it really helps to retain community. When you get people out to your meeting, it helps to retain them when they can actually see progress and see results. So being able to do that and take care of it right there and get notified on why it's taking so long, if it's taking so long, it helps. It helps retaining people. Finally, I want to talk to you guys about an app that's not released yet. It's going to be released in about 2 weeks, called My Philly Rising. So this app is another mobile app. Also should work on any device. It'll allow you to sign up and join your neighborhood on here. Now, right now, we only have Philly Rising neighborhoods. There's about 15, but we're expanding it, and in the meantime, you can just join the closest one. But you can find out about upcoming events in your neighborhood. You can learn about resources and kind of hidden gems that are just in your neighborhood. You can locate neighborhood facilities that you didn't know existed, whether it's a healthy corner store or a computer lab or a library that some people didn't know about, or a fire station. It's got a map on there of these things. And you can read success stories. So if there was a cleanup in your neighborhood and somebody posted some pictures, you can find out about those on there. And you can also interact with your neighbors, again, on a neighborhood level. So if you're interested in beta testing this, we have about 2 weeks to go. You can go to that website on the bottom to sign up to beta test. So again, here are the websites, if anybody missed them from my slides, and that's me at the bottom. Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Well, people seem to be going very timely on all this. This is not what we expected, but that's great. Okay, so next is going to be Brian Loughnane. How do you pronounce your last name, Brian? Loughnane from Nextdoor. We're just going to have a technical switch for you.
While he's doing that, can I also mention that a lot of people don't realize, but if you use Twitter and you're in a community where people don't have internet access, you can actually follow a Twitter account via text message. If you text follow space and then the account name to 40404, you'll get a text message every time you tweet. So follow Somerset Neighbors, for example. You'll get a text message every time that account makes a tweet. It's helpful. Yeah.
Thanks, Harold.
Hello, everybody. That was really good, so that's going to be hard to follow. My name is Brian Loughnane. I'm a community organizer. Here today to talk about Nextdoor, which is the free and private social network for neighborhoods. The title, Community Organizer, may suggest a variety of different roles and functions. Well, I've done just about every one of them at some point or another. And I would say that maybe the hardest part about it is getting a large representative group of community members in the same place to talk about the issues, share their ideas and concerns, and propose solutions to local problems. Which leads me to Nextdoor. You know how every now and then there's something going on in your neighborhood that you really want to know about, so you go and you ask your neighbor about it? Or maybe there's some simple thing that you need and you really hope that your neighbor has it, so you go over and you ask him or her for it. Well, I want you to imagine the possibilities. If instead of just asking one of your neighbors, you could ask your whole neighborhood with just the click of a button. We all know that our neighbors can be very valuable sources of information, goods, and services. We all know that our community can offer an abundance of value to our own lives. Well, I want you to think for a second. What if you could have every single resource that exists in your community, including critical information and urgent alerts, organized neatly all in one place? What if that same place harbored fruitful discussion of neighborhood issues and ways to fix them? What if that place was a common ground for neighbors to meet and make new friends? And what if that place was in your pocket? Well, I'm happy to introduce Nextdoor. Like I said, it's the free and private social network for neighborhoods. So there are social networks for many important parts of our lives. It's pretty clear that we've actually begun to rely on social networks for almost all parts of our lives. We rely on Facebook to keep us connected to friends and family. We rely on Twitter to follow topics and people that interest us. And we rely on LinkedIn to manage our professional identities. But there seemed to be a social network that was missing. A social network for where we live, where our kids go to school, and where we spend most of our time. It turns out that the neighborhood is the original social network. There's a large body of research led by Harvard professor Robert Putnam that shows the tangible benefits of having a social network in the neighborhood. In his book, Bowling Alone, which was published in 2000, Putnam argued that the fabric of American communities has frayed badly since the mid-1960s, resulting in a notable decline in community and civic responsibility. Putnam traced plummeting membership in PTAs, unions, and clubs of all sorts, long-term declines in blood donations, card games, and charity, and drops of 40 to 60% in dinner parties, civic meetings, family suppers, picnics, and, yes, league bowling. Virtually all leisure activities that involve connecting and socializing with others were on the decline. What's interesting about Putnam's quote here is that it's from the year 2002. So he's not talking about the online social networks that have become mainstream today. He's talking about real-world connections that we have with our neighbors in our neighborhoods. Not surprisingly, 10 years after Bowling Alone was published, a lot of what Putnam predicted has come true. The Pew Research Institute released a study in 2010 that found 29% of Americans only know a few of their neighbors by name, and 28% of Americans know none of their neighbors by name. While there are plenty of online services that can connect us to people far and wide, there doesn't seem to be anything that will connect us to people right outside our front door. And Nextdoor was created to bring back a sense of community to the neighborhood. Nextdoor is private for residents of a neighborhood. The members need to verify their address. The member data is never sold or shared, nor is it indexed by search engines. Nextdoor is local, built and run by neighborhood members, and it's useful as it offers local solutions to local problems. Nextdoor has become a lifeline to the neighborhood. Everything from useful things to social things to essential things. Right now, people are talking about things like finding a babysitter, personal things like finding a lost pet, and critical things like hearing about a rash of break-ins. We've partnered up with 120 cities so that local governments can post urgent alerts in real time to particular neighborhoods that are affected by different dangers. We've got a mobile app for iPhone and Android that allows users to stay connected with their community wherever they go. So that's a little bit about Nextdoor, and now I'd like to show you what Nextdoor actually looks like. So I'd like to show you my own Nextdoor neighborhood, Francisville, but like I said, the data is protected, so I can't, but I can show you a demo if I had internet, which, yes, I think I can do. Clear key.
No, there's a different network. Friends guest.
Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is a fake site, so don't worry. It's not real people and not real bank robberies and things that are happening. But as you can see, it's got a news feed. You can see everything that's posted comes up to this news feed. You can thank people. You can reply to people. You can start a discussion about these things. And as you can see over here, you could post to just your neighborhood or your nearby neighborhoods as well. And you can select which nearby neighborhoods that you'd like to interact with. So when you make a post, and you can do this from your computer or from your phone if you have the free app, you click on this. It can be a message, it can be an event, or it can be an urgent alert. You choose who you want to share it with. You can share it with your neighborhood, with your nearby neighborhoods, or with groups that have been created within your neighborhood. You add a subject, you give it a message, and then you must categorize each post. That way, if it's a general thing, it'll just come up in general, but everything comes up on the news feed and is also easily located within the category section over here. So as you can see, some people started groups over here, like the Alta Hill Neighborhood Watch, the Alta Hill Parents, and this looks and feels exactly the same as just a normal page, except it's strictly meant to be for communications between that group, and that can be a private or a public group. Over here you see some categories. So like I said, when you make a post, you tag it with a category, and you can see that will come up in here. Here's a few free items that people are giving away. There's also some crime and safety stuff going on. You can receive tailored emails about which category posts you want to receive. If you want to only receive crime and safety, then you can only receive crime and safety. It's all very personalizable. When you post something as an urgent alert, it will actually send everyone an email in your neighborhood who signed up, and it will also send everyone a text message who's put a phone number in there. So when I heard about Nextdoor, I took on a lead role for my neighborhood page in Francisville, which for those of you who don't know is right next to Fairmount. I used the tools that Nextdoor provided me to build up my neighborhood page, and within 2 weeks, my neighborhood now has a thriving platform for neighborly communications. People are talking about everything from bike theft rackets to vandalism to block parties and jazz festivals. My neighbors are asking for recommendations for dog walkers and putting up their old golf clubs for sale. In conclusion, and I guess the reason why I'm here this evening, is to tell you that Nextdoor is by far the easiest way that I've ever seen to strengthen and connect a local community, to get everyone on that same page. And we've been doing just that. We currently have nearly 19,000 Nextdoor neighborhoods countrywide within the millions of members. We have around 100 neighborhoods in Philadelphia actively using Nextdoor, and we've seen around 45% growth in membership in Philly in just the last month and a half. We'd like to see another 200 Nextdoor neighborhoods in the city, and we're hoping for an official partnership with the city of Philadelphia to connect our neighborhoods with pertinent information from our city government, which is convenient that I'm sitting next to Tim right now. So thank you all for being here and for your interest in strengthening your communities.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks a lot, Brian. Okay, next up is Bob Seeley with the Germantown Facebook community. Do we have that on that? Okay.
Yeah, I have a mic.
Yes.
Of course, my voice will last. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, there it is. Okay. Living in Germantown is a Facebook group, and as many of you know, things at the top of Facebook groups tend to disappear down to the bottom very rapidly. But we were lucky enough to get a screenshot of one of our successes. It's a local art gallery that started with the tiniest, easiest of shoestrings and publicized itself chiefly on living in Germantown. I'll give you a little background on that in a minute. And it's been very successful. It's also chronically short of money, so this is a fundraising pitch. I'm sure they wouldn't mind having a donation, but that's not why I put them up there. I put them up there because they're a very good development in a neighborhood that for many years didn't have many very good developments. I've lived there since 1971, and I love it, but a lot of people feel like, for years, felt like Germantown was just going to keep going downhill, and there were a lot of reasons why they felt that way. But in the last 3 or 4 years, things have begun to turn around. We've fixed up our local park. We have a Facebook group, which isn't what we really need is Nextdoor, but that wasn't even around when the Facebook group was started. We have this Facebook group that helps people to communicate with each other, and we have now some better partners in the government who are going to be trying to work with us to improve our commercial corridors. We have an influx of some new people into the neighborhood, and the trick is going to be to make it possible for those new people and the long-term residents to live in the same neighborhood without the new people raising the cost of housing and making it harder for the long-term residents to stay. We hope we can pull that off, because Germantown has historically been a place that's been pretty diverse. At first it was diverse in class, now it's diverse in racial composition and class, and it's managed to come through that and still be standing with its head held high, but it also needs a lot of work. Living in Germantown started about 3 years ago. I wasn't in at the beginning of it. And I should correct something, by the way. I'm not an administrator of the group. I'm kind of like the veteran player that breaks up fights in the locker room. And I can't always succeed in breaking up fights, but it started out as face-to-face meetings with the idea of improving racial harmony. And it pretty soon evolved into this Facebook group, which has 475 members approximately. It varies from one day to the next. A lot of the people living in Germantown have connections to other neighborhood groups. What you have to know about Germantown is it's not 7 blocks or 8 square blocks or 10 square blocks. It's 2 neighborhoods that are somewhat different but connected. East Germantown and West Germantown, you take the total of those 2 neighborhoods and the population is 44,000. It has something like 25 different large neighborhood groups. And by large, I mean I have a directory of neighborhood groups that I maintain on my website, and I just counted them. And those are the ones that I know about. It has a lot of resources, but one of the problems we've had is coordinating all those resources. Living in Germantown has actually helped with that, because a lot of the people that are in these groups can communicate with each other. We have the same problem that every other neighborhood group has in any but the most affluent of neighborhoods, which is that not everybody has access to the internet. And we need to work on that. And maybe we need a different platform to work on it with, but we've done quite a lot. The first big thing that Living in Germantown did was run a campaign to stop a development that a lot of the neighbors didn't want. The campaign wasn't a howling success. The development went ahead. But out of it came a new community development group that has done quite a lot to make the neighborhood a better place. Germantown in general, a lot of people say, well, what do we do with Germantown? The city has sometimes been heard to say that. That's not you. And it's a big place, and one of the problems is coordination. As I say, living in Germantown has helped with that. This gallery is, I would say, our second kind of success. The people who ran the gallery, who set up the gallery, are the ones who made it a success, but they depended on Living in Germantown as one of their primary media outlets. And as a result, they put announcements on there. They get people out to their openings. They've even raised funds through it. And we're not really a fundraising group, but this gallery has done very well with that. It just seems like this group has done a lot for the neighborhood without actually being quite the right platform, because I don't know about anybody else, but I have my problems with Facebook. Stuff disappears too fast, you can't find it. And personally, I'm a writer. I wrote something up. By the way, I'm a much better writer than I am speaker. So anybody that wants to see what I wrote up. And of course, one thing that writers do is revise things, and Facebook doesn't really let you revise things. I revised this piece about 10 times before it ever saw print. Can't do that on Facebook. But there's so many other things that we have been able to do on Facebook that we can see the possibilities of using its capabilities more, even moving to a different platform. I'm going to suggest that we look into a different platform, especially one that's free. And I'm just glad that I was able to be here. I have to say, the administrator would have probably given a slightly different take on this than I am, because I'm not really, I have a website, but I'm not really that much of a computer administrator type of person. My primary interests in Germantown are in the planning and design stuff, and I'm completely self-taught on that. But what we have is a lot of neighborhood groups with a lot of energy, and they're starting to feel that they're going to get somewhere. So in all the time I've lived in the neighborhood, I've never felt more optimistic, and I think it's partly because of social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much. I want to do a quick check here. Whose brain is full? Okay. We have two more speakers. We're doing great here. The next one is Devani DeVore from the Newbold Neighbors Association. And
yes. Well, I don't have any. No, Facebook page is a Facebook page. I'm Devani DeVore. I'm the vice president of the Newbold Neighborhood Association. Neighbors Association, we are a association of neighbors. Our borders are basically the eastern sliver of Point Breeze. So we're broad to 18th from Washington to Snyder. That's kind of the area that we felt we can get our hands around. Point Breeze is a pretty big neighborhood. Our organization started about 5 years ago. Basically, we plant trees, we do block cleanups. We became an RCO recently. We do zoning, those kind of things. We have a Facebook page and a Twitter account. Our Facebook page, we just crossed the 500 mark. It's a group page. It was an open group, so anybody can join it, say whatever they felt like. That got a little ridiculous. So we kind of closed it a little bit. But what happens is you've got, the whole gamut of people. You don't know really if they're in your neighborhood or not. There's no real way to verify them without calling them out. We're all volunteers. We can't really, ask for their ID. And we don't really want to get into censorship, and we don't want to get into too much, show me your papers, that kind of thing. But, we limit, we don't have any commercial activity on the page. If you're flagrantly obscene or just being mean or trolling, we say save that for Philadelphia Speaks and keep it off our site. We've had some issues, but generally people are good. We've got most of our board and some of our formal board members are administrators, so everybody can have. Facebook's 24/7, and most of us work, so it's a good chance to have lots of people kind of monitoring that and keeping track of those kind of things. Twitter is about half the size for us, and it's not really the place of choice for our audience. Audience is going to develop where they're comfortable. Ours is definitely on Facebook. We have an e-newsletter that we've done that's been pretty well. It's about 400 people with about a 50% open rate, which is pretty strong for an e-newsletter. But one of the interesting successes that we've had is prior to 311 app, C-Click Fix was the mode of choice for 3101 type complaints, and they had a nice point system. And so we had a contest, and in the neighborhood, whoever had the most points, they actually got a $50 gift certificate to the local coffee shop. And that was really awesome because everybody walking their dog is out there with their phone taking pictures of graffiti and anything they could find and trying to raise that up, and it has a nice map feature. And you can kind of just see, if you zoom out of our neighborhood, it was just all the dots were in our neighborhood, and then as you went away from it, like almost nobody was using it. So maybe if 311 had some points, we could do some contest stuff. It's a lot of fun, especially in the summertime. It gets people out and walking around. That was really great. And also with the digital divide issues we have, we started doing last month a text messaging service. So we use a basic SMS text messaging marketing platform online. There's tons of them. We were paying about $15 a month for 500 messages a month. And so you text the word Newbold to 79748. We got about 60 people signed up on that, and we did some flyering specifically for that in the neighborhood. We've also added that to all our media. Whenever we're doing flyering for our zoning meetings, we added that to that, and it's starting to pick up and do pretty well. We've had what's interesting in the Facebook side is that in Point Breeze, there's a lot of gentrification issues. There's a lot of development happening. There's a lot of empty lots that are being, the 3-story roof deck construction next to a whole block of 2-story older houses. And even though it's technically outside our borders, we're kind of the most robust Facebook page in the neighborhood. So that kind of comes over to us, and that's a lot of back and forth with that. But one of the developers who's done a lot of work, good and bad, whatever you want to call it, has actually started using our site to pitch ideas. He threw a facade up for like a 6-lot development. Nobody liked it. He changed it. People liked it, and so it's got a good back and forth on that. He actually he's opening up. He's fixing up a storefront. He's like, "What do you guys want there?" Free rent to a good business plan. So it's got some good back and forth with that way. A lot of community input from that. But I think the strongest two things social media-wise has been the text messaging, kind of a new platform we're hoping that will really work out. And then the C-Click Fix game was a lot of fun. But it's again, you have 500 people on Facebook, and 3 people come out to prune trees on a Saturday. So you get a lot of, clicktivists, people who want to like it, or lurkers, or all these terms for people that just kind of they might be from Ohio. If you look at where they're from or where they're living, but they're on our page, and it's too much to filter them out. But it's a lot of people out there who knows why they're there, and maybe some of the controversies that we've had on the site is drawing attention to us. I don't know, but so it's tough. The verification that Nextdoor has seems like a nice touch. Because Facebook can be the Wild West, and then, you have bad actors, then people go on your wall when this bad stuff is happening. They think it's condoned because you haven't had a chance to catch it yet, and then it makes everybody look bad. So there's good and bad points to all this social media stuff. And I guess that's what I have for you all today. A lot of it's been covered already. So.
No device. Okay. So
we have a minor pause as Harold seems to help out with the.
Can I maybe use someone else's computer? It's not reading it on my. Not reading it as a display. Can I? Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves. Just a moment. Are you on the web or are you?
Web. I had.
Did you have another presentation?
I did, but I can just do the website. That's okay. No problem at all. Oh, was this? I didn't plug that in. Did it have to be plugged in? This one?
No, that's,
okay.
That's just to make sure it doesn't get noisier. Here, let's get you in there, and then if you want to, here's a mouse.
Okay.
And here's and you should be connected to...
Okay, so
I just have to see this a minute to see what pages I had open. Just give me 1 second.
Is there enough time for us to go use the restroom and back? Sure. Okay, sure.
It's easier just for me to load the pages now versus doing it while I'm talking, because that way I can just toggle. Yeah.
Here's my little guy.
Oh.
Taking a bath.
Okay.
Might be the picture now. Just waiting outside.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
What is her name?
Ava?
Eva. She's so
Yeah.
cute. Really
She's like-
beautiful. Wow.
It's like a ton of hair.
Do you get lots of comments about her eyes?
Yeah, everybody.
We get, yeah, my little guy has really big blue eyes, and everyone's always like, those eyes.
Yeah. And it's funny because her size-wise, she's like in like the bottom like 3%, but her head's like in the 80 percentile. So I think it makes it even look bigger relative to her.
She's really adorable.
But she got, my wife was walking her home in a stroller. She was like, "Oh my God, your baby's so cute." And then she looks up and someone's like, "Oh, I know you."
Right,
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
I just need 30 seconds. I'd rather load the pages now than I can be just, I'll be 7 minutes instead of 10. How about that?
Solid foods last week.
Yeah, same here.
It's not supported on this browser.
Please stop taking the bottle, which is challenging. Yeah.
Wow.
He.
So we'll be ready in a minute. We're just finishing the technical delay, but we'll be ready in just a minute or two for our final presenter.
He likes to drink water from a glass. He doesn't even like a sippy cup. He just wants to he wants you to hold the glass.
He wants to do what you guys do, yeah.
So that's been challenging.
Yeah. They said we could start early because she's rolling around a lot, and she's like grabbing in all our cups and bowls and stuff. So we got her an avocados.
Yep.
She likes
Sweet potatoes.
I like that. You tried bananas, but she just doesn't like bananas. Her friend was allergic. The kid was allergic, so he didn't want to push it.
Yeah. Theo loves sweet potatoes.
Oh,
Loves
yeah.
them. And we also started giving him edamame, which he also really loves.
You have teeth yet, or?
He has one on the way. It's like halfway there. But that's been causing him a lot of stress. He's like, I think we're reading this book called The Wonder Weeks. Have you heard about this book? It's been a really helpful book. I mean, the message is pretty simple, just that there are documented periods and this book just focuses on the first year, but there are definite periods to expect, big periods of growth and development.
You can start, but how do you engage the screen? Oh, okay.
When you're ready.
Okay.
Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
So, anyway.
Start with that screen.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. On the cusp of one of those right now, so he's been a lot more fussy and
Okay.
harder than it
We have the very well-timed break, and we're ready to resume.
Yeah, we're in that sweet spot where she's sleeping all night.
So please take a seat.
Is that okay? Okay.
And our friend's baby, we spent a weekend with him. 1 year old, is the size of a 2-year-old. He's like 110%.
Yeah, somehow I emailed it to myself. It's just one slide.
Her baby's so different.
Yeah.
So different.
Sorry for the
With apologies for technical delays.
the brief pause. I guess that's what happens when you have an Apple product.
Our last speaker is Sarah Glover, the social media editor from NBC 10, and I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, I just wanted to flash up our handles in the event you're interested in following us at NBC 10. We primarily use the portals of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and you can follow us at NBC Philadelphia at all three. And then my handle is there. I hope that you consider me a friend. There's people in the room that I know actually only digitally, only socially, that I'm glad to see some faces in the room that I've been following over the years and engaging with you on social media. So feel free to tweet me questions, ask me what restaurants I like. I mean, I really do consider social media as my way to engage and to, have a front row seat with folks that I may not be able to have from my desk. Actually, before I came to NBC a year ago, I was a staff photographer at the papers. And so I'm very much a person who likes to be in the public. I love people. And so for me, it's been interesting that social media allows me to engage with people, although maybe I don't see you directly when I'm tweeting you or, outside of potentially FaceTiming or something like that. It still is a great vehicle that I feel like I'm having those really face-to-face conversations with people, and that's really how I've used social media and leverage it to find stories. And you can certainly, I'll talk about a little bit about social media in this 10 minutes, but also consider that you should and could be pitching to news outlets your story over social media. If you Google social media news release, there's lots of organizations that have examples of how you can succinctly pitch your, your topic or your event. It really is different than, it's really a snapshot. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I mean, we kind of live now in a world of 140 characters or less, like Twitter. So even if you're not on Twitter and using that platform, that's really how we are as a society, engaging in pieces of information. It's bits and pieces. So think about yourself as, what's the lead? What's the point of it all? Why should I care about your organization or your, event coming up? So you want to get to the meat of it all, pretty much at the top of what you're either calling a news person or pitching your story, the old way through email or through social media. To that point at NBC 10, we certainly look at what you are tweeting to us on the handles, what your message is on Facebook. We read each and every individual message and respond to them. So we, appreciate the concept of the number of likes on a Facebook page. I mean, I know some people see that as a badge of honor to have a certain number of likes. For us, it's what is the conversation we're having with you, our followers. It's, for me, I take note of that number, but it's not, our badge of honor. We really consider our brand. We connect with our viewers and our followers. You can reach us across platforms. And as some of the other panelists said, the conversations that we're having are different across platforms. Even on our apps, you can download from the App Store our weather app, our news app. People are engaging us through the app. So while we are engaging folks on social media, people are sending us photos out when, you see a storm or you see news happening. Just this past weekend, the fire, people are sending us images and imagery, and you are citizen journalists by doing so, and we credit folks. We build galleries with the work. So we really pride ourselves on having conversation, and for me, number one is engagement. So it's the quality of that conversation, not the quantity. So it's not, quote unquote, the number of followers, the number of likes. So I think sometimes people get pretty obsessed with that as your social cred, and to me, your social cred is like, what are you all about? Socially, what are you talking about? Are you just posting headlines and links, or are you talking to people? Are you, do you have social, social, not just curiosity, but social authenticity in the sense that you're giving people shout outs and high fives. So are you tagging the organizations that you're working with, or are you typing their name? Am I tagging your organization on Twitter and having a conversation with you, or am I just writing your name? So it's those little things that not only does that raise your credibility on social media, but it actually helps you come up higher in search. So that on Twitter, I'm going to now jump to our Twitter page here. When you go to any Twitter page, this is our home landing page, what we've tweeted today. If I go into, I don't think I'm signed on here as NBC Philadelphia, which I want to do that first. The other thing, too, is I'm signing on. I highly suggest you change your passwords, your social passwords regularly, every 30 to 60 days. As you know, have no idea who and how might be able to access your account. You might accidentally click on spam or a link in Twitter. Somebody sends you a direct message, and you're like, this looks like they're sending a direct message to me, and then here it's spam, and it may not engage in your account right away. So you should just make a practice, maybe September 1st, October 1st, November 1st, like make it easy. So social media to me is like trying to find the best kind of time management that you can. And so, instead of creating things that are cumbersome, think about how you can kind of organize your thoughts into a time frame that makes sense to you. So if you're changing your passwords at the top of the month, that's a good thing. So here, who to follow in the right, that's what I was talking about, search. So each social portal has its own algorithm or its own way of identifying how to categorize information. And how do you acquire or obtain more followers? It's, the conversation you're having. Are you tagging people? And then Facebook's works similarly. People that you might be having a conversation with and their friends might be seeing that content, and then Facebook sees the relationship that you might have to people. So you want to think about the content you're pushing and also who you're tagging and who you're engaging. So as an organization or an individual, kind of the formula that I suggest to our talent and people that I work with directly in NBC10 and other people I speak with is to think about yourself as a brand, because you are a brand, whether you work for an organization or you're a freelancer or you're an entrepreneur. You are your own individual brand. I'm Sarah Glover. I work for NBC10, but I'm, Sarah Media as well. I have my own website, and I have my own Twitter, which is Sky Photo. And so you need to think of yourself as a brand. So if you're your own brand, then what message are you sending out? Because you're going to attract followers and you're going to attract the engagement based on the messages you're sending them. So think of trying to categorize what messages or what you're talking about into 3 buckets. So what are the 3 things that are important to you, and try to assimilate your messages around those areas. For me, I'm a photographer and videographer by training, so I'm always, talking about photography, videography, new media. I'm a mom, so I talk about kids and baseball and sports because my kid is an athlete. And obviously, I'm a news junkie, so news is like the other bucket. So those are the kinds of things you're going to get from me if you're following me on Twitter or even on Facebook. And so you assemble, a corral of people you're having these conversations with based on the messages that you're sending. So think of yourself that way as your own brand, again, related to what you do. The third portal for us that's powerful at NBC 10 is Instagram. It's coming up. But again, you can follow all of our portals are, at NBC Philadelphia, or in this case, Instagram.com/NBC Philadelphia. It's a fun way to engage with folks. And so, most of the images that are on Instagram, even though the screen isn't loading for us right now, they are, it's great behind the scenes stuff. People really appreciate that because they can see what's happening inside the studio behind the scenes with our talent. Again, it's another way to connect with people. So that really be used as a visual portal so that you can see what's happening behind the scenes. I talked a little bit about being socially courteous, but in addition to that, finding and mining for data. So Storify is something that I use regularly, and I might create a Storify that we actually embed and make it an actual news article on NBC10.com, or I might just Storify information so that I can see what's happening around a news event. I wasn't on the fire, but that's an example that I could have used Twitter Advanced Search or Storify. And to create a Storify, you can search by the location. So I might search near Philadelphia and the topic. Not logged in. Let's see if we can log in quickly. This is a good tool, as well as TweetDeck. I don't know if anyone in the room is using TweetDeck, but that's another way to easily mine for information if you need to. So if you want to create a story just very quickly, you hit create. It's just that easy. I'm creating a public story. Now I'm going to see you have all of these different portals for you at your discretion. I'm going to choose Twitter. The tonight's hashtag is PHL. NET2, and I'm going to put within 10 kilometers of Philadelphia. Let's hit go. And so if I want to create a storify, these are all the tweets that have just come in this evening. I can just drag and drop. Here they come. You add a title. And you can quickly engage with people. So we've got Brianna Morgan, who's actively tweeting. Emily, my bad. Actually, I did a story on Emily that I found her through social media. I'm trying to think who else in the room I've done stories on in here. But with the minute left, I did want to just take the final opportunity to say, you know, obviously at NBC 10, we're interested in conversations. This fall, I'm going to have some engagement opportunities. We'll reach out to different segments of the community, whether it be, you know, moms or businessmen. We might do, you know, a lunch with the digital team or breakfast with the digital team. So certainly, you know, stay engaged with me. I have cards here. I'd be interested in having you learn more about what we do at NBC 10, because we're really, again, about wanting to have a conversation with the community. And then also don't forget to visit our website, NBC10.com. And in terms of TV news sites, we're actually the leading one in the market. So thank you for being visitors of the site, and we pride ourselves on giving you local news as well as breaking news and weather. Those are our theme areas. So if you have any questions, I look forward to taking them.
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks to all 7 panelists for keeping up to a very difficult time constraint. Although, Sarah, I think you got the most words in 10 minutes. I think that was.
I talk fast.
Okay, so Brianna and Joe are going to handle the mics, and we're going to basically have a conversation. So we have no specific structure to this conversation. People can make comments, they can ask questions, they can be questions specifically for any of the panelists or general comments or questions. And as I said before as well, although we have some great expertise and experience up here, we also have some great expertise and experience in the room in general. So other people may be the best responses for certain sorts of things as well. Does anyone have any kind of question or comment they want to start off with? Okay, so I'll call on people, and Joe and Brianna will run off to people, so that's fine. And if you could identify yourself.
My name's Carl Dash from Germantown. I have a question for Brian and a comment that I want feedback from Mike Lyons, because he seems to be a student of hyperlocal journalism. Brian, I wanted to ask you, in regards to Nextdoor, how are neighborhood boundaries defined? Because if it's done by the individuals, it could be a small sliver of a neighborhood, and that could leave a lot of people out. So I just want to ask how they define. Should I wait for his answer, then ask?
Sure. We can do that first.
Hey there. Thanks a lot for that question. So if you are the first person to sign up in an area and there is not any Nextdoor neighborhood already in existence, then you're actually asked to draw the neighborhood boundaries for your neighborhood. That presents a strange problem for me, because it's my job to look at some of these neighborhoods and say, well, that's just some erroneous, strange shape that some person drew and called, you know, Brian's hood. So we try to, you know, we talk to the founding members. That's what we call a founding member, is someone who creates they draw their neighborhood boundaries. And if it looks good, then we keep it. But sometimes, you know, we ask, oh, well, maybe that's a little bit too big. You know, Center City West, for example, would be too big of a next door neighborhood that would have, in the tens of thousands of households, and we try to keep it to a size where people feel comfortable sharing their information, around 3,000 households or so. So that's another factor to consider, is the size of the Nextdoor neighborhood. We're just trying to get it right for what people or what our members like the best, which we've noticed once you get above 3,000 households, people don't like it as much because they feel like they're sharing with too many people. So we try to accurately reflect a neighborhood and keep it within that size.
So going by Mr. Seeley's assertion that there are 44,000 people in Germantown, and your idea that 3,000 is a good neighborhood, there could be 14 Germantown organizations.
Right. Well, at that point, I imagine that there's only so many north, west, divisions that you could have. So at that point, you'd probably start titling the neighborhoods a little bit differently, maybe based on a certain monument in the area. Maybe it's a park, maybe it's a museum, but you could come up with a name that makes sense.
And my statement to Mr. Lyons is, there's been talk today about a digital divide as the reason that some people in certain communities are not a part of conversations on certain platforms or media brands, I guess you'll say. But I've observed over the last few years that sometimes there's a filter, an intentional filter, or maybe a desired filter, based upon all kinds of things. In fact, in the Philadelphia magazine, it's funny that article, Being White in Philly, came out, but I found a much worse article, offensive, in October of 2012 called The New Philadelphia versus the Old Philadelphia. And it actively defined people in terms of those that are new and moving in here the last 6 or 7 years. A lot of the hyperlocal journalism that's represented up here, in fact, is, and I'm not being critical of anyone, I'm just saying that seems to be the filter. For instance, the Newbold concert, the stuff that's going on in Point Breeze and Newbold. Some of the people that I've talked to who live in Point Breeze have actively felt like the Newbold name is an offensive kind of, assault. And I talk to people on all sides, or he's a guy I'm friendly with, but I just want to know how you feel hyperlocal journalism as a culture evolves within that idea of trying to bridge communities.
Well, it's the $64,000 question for us and for everybody that works in a city that has a multicultural kind of neighborhood. We chose to be a for-profit organization. That was a choice that took us months to make. Us being me and my wife sitting at our kitchen table, mostly because we knew if we became a for-profit organization, there was a certain audience that would be expected to be identified by us, and that is an audience that lives in a certain part of West Philly, which is University City, which has a certain level of income. We knew that was what would be expected from us. To make money. What we've tried to do is get beyond that. What we're struggling with is representing accurately communities that we don't live in, right? I live at 45th and Spruce. I know all the neighbors around there. I know that neighborhood. I don't live in Belmont. I don't live in Carroll Park, right? And to a certain extent, that's part of West Philly. We're a victim of our name, too. West Philly's, it's 200. If we could change one thing, that would be what we would change. We would change the name of the site, right? That was a bad idea. Because West Philly is a big, huge place with a lot of different histories and a lot of different neighborhoods that have their own history. What we've struggled with is trying to, how do we approach reporting from somewhere like Carroll Park when we don't live there? Because what mainstream news organizations end up doing, as we all know, is they report crime, and they report, the lowest common denominator, which is crime, right? How often do we hear about Carroll Park? Unfortunately, not that often. What we're trying to do is find people who live here. So we just got a guy in Powelton who's going to write for us. We're looking for somebody in kind of Cobb's Creek, further west. That's the only way we can think of to approach this, is to get people who are there, rather than us dictating what the news is from Carroll Park, and we don't live in Carroll Park, but we're obligated to cover it because of the name we have. Somebody tweeted me while I was talking, like, what about Haddington? Or, I feel you. I know what you're saying, but there's only two of us at this point. That's the biggest question that we deal with. Absolutely the biggest question.
Another comment? Question? Gentlemen, you had your hand up first. Yeah.
Got a question for forgot your name, man. Neighbors Association. Tavani, thank you. I got a question because you made a very profound statement to me because this is something that I deal with. That's a major issue, and you referred to the term of liketivists, which I kind of like. The people that always like stuff but don't get involved. So I had a question, and it's $1 million question. I know he said 64,000, but it's just $1 million question right here. What are y'all suggestions? Anybody up here in regards to how do we take that and translate it into actual servant? You know, actual people out here coming out here to serve. Because, like I said, I mean, you know, I do a Christian. I have a Christian-based organization, so you know, I can post something on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, and it'll get tons of likes. And, you know, we do these things like we feed homeless. We do these things like get into the communities and talk to people. And everybody likes it, and they love the pictures and stuff. But I turn around, I might got 6 people with me, and 100 of them like the photo. So how do, you know, what are your suggestions in regards to that?
So it's tough. I mean, we still deal with that situation. Some of it is just you have to play the numbers. You have to have 600 people to have 6 show up. I don't, you know. But what we've we've experimented with specifically thanking the individual, like tagging them in the photos, giving them a special shout out for that. We also try to say that we're more of a platform for you. So people say, "I wish they cleaned up this block." Like, do it. Like, you know, like use us to do that. Organize it, put it on our page, and go clean up. We'll get you a shovel. We'll get you a broom. So we used to do. When we do the block cleanups, we usually like pick a specific area, maybe by a park or by a really bad empty lot, and say everybody go here and do it, and you get only a few people. So this year, for the most recent one a few weeks ago, we said clean up your block, and we'll drop off brooms and bags to your block. And so 4 or 5 different blocks organized and did their own block, and we had our teams travel around and do it that way. We said if you find it, we also a tire cleanup day, so. If you find a tire, tweet us or Facebook us where the tire is, and we'll have a truck swing by and pick it up. So some of it is trying to either get them. It's tough. Like we haven't figured it out either, you know. But sometimes we use a little guilt, you know. And sometimes if something, you know, we put into the bylaws, if like we don't have 2 people in a committee, then the committee doesn't really exist because it can't just be one person doing all this, and then you know they move or something, or they burn out, and they work. So you have to have like at least 2 people in a committee, or you know a few people in a committee who can like kind of work together and share the responsibilities. But we haven't figured it out either. If anybody else has,
okay, yeah, okay, Kim.
I was just going to say just 2 things. We use Facebook a lot for event invitations, and something that one of my fellow board members does is all those maybes, is to really go on there like the day before or the day of and like just message all those maybes and say like, hey, you know, really would love to see you at this event. And honestly, it makes a big difference for all those people. And just to also second just the thanking people when they come out, take those pictures. And I would also say to just to be genuine in like what you're saying. If people aren't coming out, say that. You know, like Facebook isn't just about like singing your own praises. Like if you're struggling with something that's meaningful to you and you don't understand why people aren't coming, say that. Ask why aren't people coming out? Maybe it's you're planning things on at a time when people can't make it or something. Maybe if you change the date. I don't know, something. People might give you some suggestions or just make it.
Tim, did you want to?
If I could play devil's advocate here. I recently heard about the United Kingdom's effort in their real estate taxing, I believe it was. Basically, at the top of the bill, they put a little line there that says, on average, 9 out of 10 people pay their real estate tax on time. And that resulted in a significant increase in the amount of people that paid on time. Basically, they're using peer pressure and herd mentality to encourage people to pay on time, when in reality, actually, a lot of people don't pay on time. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that rather than saying we tried to organize a cleanup but only 2 people came out, Maybe leave out the fact that only 2 people came out and say it was a great cleanup, and take some great action shots and post those photos, and just give people the impression that great things are happening and they're missing out. Just a thought.
Thank you, guys.
Are there other comments about, I mean, it's a really good question about increasing lectivism into activism and really trying to get people who, one of the great things about social media is it's such a low barrier to entry. People can just like things, it's so easy, but to be able to help to create community by creating a higher level of connection. Anyone else have any strategies or thoughts about that? Jacques?
Well, it's a comment, a question. So I want to piggyback on Carl. Yeah. Really, social media doesn't create community. It doesn't. That's my opinion. It helps communicate. It helps possibly identify who's more engaged. Creating community? No. For me to create community, I need to see the other person face to face in the eye. That's me. I need a connection. It's a proxy. And the question is, how best can we use that proxy? That's what we just heard in your great suggestions. And the challenge I see is really, okay, so how do we, there is communication. All right, so how do we go to the next step, which is, how do they show up? Because that's really where it's hard. Okay, so that's, I don't know if that's really what, it's a comment. You want. The question I had for Brian. I was one of the very first person creating a neighborhood in Nextdoor because I love this in Germantown, mind you. And my immediate neighbors signed up, and that was it. And I really don't have time to push it. So the question I have for you is like, how do you get? In my opinion, it's a great tool, and really, I'm really please use it, sign it. How do you get people to join in?
Okay, well, you want to connect with your organizer. I know that there is another organizer for Germantown area. Her name is Tiffany. She's a lovely organizer, and she can definitely help you. Nextdoor has some really amazing tools that make it very, very easy for you to get to, say, 50 to 75 members. And then from there, it's going to just sort of do its own cycle. People are going to tell each other. And the biggest way is neighbors talking to neighbors. If you only have 2 members, then you have to definitely work with your organizer, who I'm going to connect you with a little bit later. And, there are tools there's an abundance of tools that Nextdoor can provide. Like I said, my neighborhood, Francisville, it took 2 weeks, and that got us 80 members, and new members are joining every day. No one likes to show up to an empty party, so you want there to be members and content being posted, and definitely working with your organizer. She'll be able to tell you every little piece of information you need to know. And, I built up my neighborhood page, and it was not hard work. Like I said, I've done many different forms of community organizing, and it's a very difficult job. But with Nextdoor, it was the easiest form of community organizing I've ever done. Everything I did was from my computer. I clicked a couple of buttons. I used the tools that Nextdoor provided, and that's what got it to take off. But also, you as a lead, you can do some things. You can make sure that you're welcoming people, posting content, make sure that the page isn't getting stale. You take on a little bit of a lead as it starts to grow. You have to maintain it.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Alex in the back.
Neighborhood schools have often traditionally, neighborhood schools have a great potential, I think, for building community and have in the past. But I think we've lost about 27 closed, and I was wondering if there's some way that groups like ours here can collaborate to have those schools reopen and maybe become community learning centers or intergenerational programs, and plus restoring the schools to the neighborhood where parents can walk to school and have a part of their child's schooling.
About using the
Has this come up in?
I'd give a general answer and not so specific to your, because that's a great idea, and that idea should be presented to the school district and in partnership with other groups. But I think the way I'd answer your question is that partnership and partnering through organizations can not only solve problems but can help get the messages out in terms of community assets. So to answer your question and his original first question, it's what you do, it's a verb. Social media is a verb. It's something that you do. So it's more than just sending a tweet or tagging someone on Facebook, but it's actually taking that next step to engage with that person. So if you're trying to solve a problem, crowdsourcing is a way to solve problems, and social media is a way that you connect people and you partner to solve those problems. So whatever the issue is, you can sometimes achieve goals and go to that next step through social media. But I guess the point that I also wanted to make is that social media isn't just about sending messages, it's going and engaging with that other party. So if you're having a party and no one's coming, then maybe you just need to crash somebody else's party. So look at who else is throwing events on Facebook that are similar to yours and show up to their events and talk to them and partner with them, take pictures with them, and invite them to your party. And so it's really about connecting and engaging and being authentic, and it's not about the red alert, putting it out there I have the best party in town, you got to come to my party. But no, it's about engaging with that other party, and in this case it would be crowdsourcing, and that would be trying to solve problems that you see with different groups who partner together to solve those problems.
Any other thoughts about that? Okay, other questions? Pat, is that?
It's a simple question. Tivani, you mentioned something about prizes for $50 gift certificate. What was the first part of what you said about that? It was a...
Oh, so we used that. That's not really operational right now anymore. C-Click Fix is it's C-Click Fix is
C-Click Fix.
C-Click Fix. It's 311, but app before 311 app got it together. No offense. But so it was good, but it had points. But now it's great, and we use it now. But basically, we work with area businesses. We've got a really great coffee shop in our neighborhood and other corner stores. And we said, would you get $20 gift certificate? These kind of things. And you post that on Facebook, and that kind of helps bring people out.
Related to that, and what was the vision? I guess maybe that's part of what came to mind. Part of the organizing. Was part of organizing and the activism is what's the vision you're creating. So was there a vision of fixing something up? Is that what it was about, or just a reason to get people together? And
it was. So I used to work at an organization called Next American City. So we kind of had our eye on all these kind of civic engagement tools, and I saw this one came up. I met some of the guys who developed it. And I wanted to engage my community organization with it, and I knew that I had a point system, and I knew that a lot of my friends are competitive, and it'd be an easy one, to kind of use for people who are dog walking or baby walking or regular walking. And so it just kind of happened as it was a kind of a no-brainer. And this is get the graffiti off the street, the small stuff. A lot of our neighbors are we're uncomfortable walking around at 3 a.m., with walkie-talkies and things like that. So this was an easy entry-level, mostly neighborhood beautification is what our organization is focused on.
We're working on points for the 301 app.
Great.
Okay. Bedard, you had your hand up. I keep forgetting to remind people to introduce themselves, but just say who you are.
Nextdoor sounds great. What's it cost? And if it's free, what's the business model?
Sure, thanks for asking. It is free. It's free for members. It's free for anyone who wants to use it. You can get the app completely free. The app is for iPhone and Android. And it's taken a model that many other websites in the past have taken. It's building up its membership right now. It's getting the product just right. and eventually it will monetize through sales of local advertising spots on the actual website. So I like to emphasize that your data is completely private. Your data will never be shared or sold for any reason. Eventually it will sort of look like a digital modern day Yellow Pages, where you're going to have a directory of everyone in your neighborhood and a directory of all of the local businesses. There's a large market for local advertising, and a lot of local businesses are having trouble reaching the local market. And turns out that Nextdoor is a perfect way for local businesses to reach their customers. And through surveys and everything else, they found that people are interested in hearing about local businesses. So the advertisements are never going to be annoying. They're actually going to be something that's very useful for members as well.
So you're going to steal the Frankfurt Gazette hyper-local advertising revenue?
Yes. No.
There's no money in Frankfurt, don't worry.
Okay, Lamar, back.
Are there a minimum number of people who can form one of these Nextdoor groups?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Well, actually, there is something that's called a pilot neighborhood, which is where when you create a Nextdoor neighborhood, it's in the pilot stage until it reaches 10 members. Once 10 members are signed up in that Nextdoor neighborhood, it's considered a launch neighborhood, and you'll have all of the features, and it will be permanently there as your Nextdoor neighborhood. If it fails to get the 10 members within a certain amount of time, and I believe it's around 2 months, then the neighborhood will expire, which means that it's basically like, oh, well, this one didn't work out, and someone else can try again. But my job is to help all the neighborhoods succeed, and if you're working with your organizer, you should have a great page in no time.
So a block in West Philadelphia with 60 houses on it could be a neighborhood.
No, we shoot for a certain. Not that we shoot for a certain size. We set certain caps because when it's too small, it's not going to get the critical mass of people. When it's too large, you're just sharing too much. So what for this example, we suggest starting a group. So you would sign up, and your neighborhood, you'd have the baseline neighborhood is a certain size, 2,000 to 3,000 households. Within that Nextdoor neighborhood, you can start a group. So if you want to start a group for photography, you can do that. But if you want to start a group for more locational based thing like the 1700 block of Lombard Street, you can start a group for that too. And you can make it private so that only the people on your block can actually get into that group and see what's going on.
Can I just wanted to ask if Nextdoor is anything like every block, because I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but I personally feel burnt by what happened with every block, and we invested a lot of time in duplicating all the stuff that we were doing and putting it up on there and sourcing it with information, and then boop, and then it was gone one day, and that wasn't there anymore for people to use. So
right.
There's I'm not 100% familiar with Nextdoor, but it was sort of a similar premise that it was a way for people to connect in their neighborhood and share events and information, and it came and then it was gone.
It started on a very organic level in Chicago, and then who bought it? Some NBC bought it, or Universal.
MSNBC.
Yeah, sure.
So the question, it's a good question. How do you do this on a national scale?
Right. Well, thank you for the question, because I'm glad that I could address this. A lot of people, they bring up every block, and people loved every block, and they feel so burnt. Yeah. I personally never had the privilege of using every block. I don't know what it's like, but people often compare Nextdoor to every block. Nextdoor is in a very strong position to survive in the long term. The business model it just works. It's attracted investment from private venture capitalist investors, numbering somewhere around $40 million of investment, because they know that this is going to work. And the investors are the same people that invested in Facebook and LinkedIn. I know Google Ventures is one of the investors, among many others. So people are keeping their eye on this because they know it's actually going to last in the long term.
Okay, another question. Well, you had your hand up for a little bit. And identify yourself, please. And
Thanks. And again, my name's Andrew Thompson, and I hate to pick on the Nextdoor guy, so I'm not going to. But this is a question that originally started, I was going to ask him, but can apply to all of you. I remember, Tivoli, you were talking a little bit about the difference between Point Breeze and Newbold and stuff, and it sort of made me think that neighborhood boundaries and sense of where people belong change over time, and their points of contention and a bit of conflict in some ways. And so I was originally thinking, in Nextdoor, if the person draws their neighborhood, what happens if I'm in a neighborhood dead zone where, all the boundaries were drawn and I don't fall in any of them? But really, to open it up to the rest of you, when in dealing with your civic organizations and stuff like that, do those sort of change over time and shifting and conflict and stuff, when does that come into play, and what kind of challenges has that come up for you?
Well, I'll start that conversation, because actually we spent an entire year discussing this and talking about name change and having community meetings, and Point Breeze East, West Abroad, no neighborhood, not even just South Philly. We surveyed people. Some people never considered that far east as Point Breeze. Certain parts south never considered themselves part of Point Breeze. There's the Newbold Civic, there's the Newbold CDC. Some of these are kind of developer run. There's a whole, gamut of things. We had a lot of meetings. We had a vote. It was very close. I think Newbold stayed by 1 or 2 votes. And so we decided, we kind of put that to bed, just do the work. Don't the work. We're not running into other neighborhood associations who want to clean up the same block as us. So that's one thing. No one's, we're not both showing up at the same tree planting in the same block, Yeah, that'd be nice. But it's a whole, it's tough. You can go on Google Maps and pitch a neighborhood. You can, there's ways to do that on Google Maps as well. You can mess with borders, and then people out there approve it or disapprove it or things like that. So it's interesting. But we spent a long time dealing with that, a lot of resources, and a lot of stress. And when people met us, they go, "Oh, you guys aren't that bad. You're new and you're bold and you're scary." But then they meet us, and then we're not trying to change anything. We're not affiliated with the developers who started the organization. They actually left us and started ones, and then moved their borders up into our borders, and but then hopefully the RCO thing will kind of clear that up. There's 6 RCOs that cover various parts of Point Breeze that has to get figured out. So we realize that we can't, where I am around 15th Street, past Young Ave is kind of a shorter walk than Point Breeze Ave. So my commercial corridor is Broad Street and parts of past Young. I don't, you talk about I only walk 4 or 5 blocks in any one direction. I don't really hit the commercial corridors of Point Breeze Ave. Point Breeze, they don't come over. They're not doing cleanups. I don't know. It's just a whole thing. It's hard. It's going to be unsolvable. Hopefully one day. But I'm rambling now. Well,
other comments about neighborhood definition?
The moment you put a name on something, there's 50 people waiting to punch you in the face.
There's also West Newbold that showed up on Craigslist. So it's realtor. It's out of. Even if we said we're not Newbold anymore, it would still be on maps. It would still be on Craigslist ads. It would still be used by developers. It's kind of out of the bag at a certain level.
I was just going to add, too, that our civic association boundaries are possibly expanding and changing, and we've connected with people, outside of our boundaries who would really like to be a part of the civic association and would really like to be able to connect with the positive things that we're doing in the neighborhood. So because of that, and primarily we've been connecting with these people on Facebook. So we're hearing from them, and we're, our board is going to have to meet, and we're going to have to vote to change our bylaws and all that kind of stuff. But we're considering changing for that reason. So.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, back there.
Yeah, my name is Solomon. I'm a business owner based in Old City, And my question was, with all the budget cuts for Philadelphia schools and a lot of schools closing down, I think it's like a call for initiative for people to actually, for private people to start opening our own schools to take care of our communities and stuff like that. So I was wondering, and especially with a lot of people looking at the failure of public schools in Philadelphia already and the high dropout rates and stuff, I was wondering if and how we could use social media as a call for this initiative, and if you think that would work, and any ideas you had.
One of the things that we've taken up is, education is something that from the beginning that we've focused on. I guess the most important thing I think we can do is curate that conversation among the people who read us, and that is point them to the right people who are having this conversation. If you follow the hashtag Philly Education on Twitter, that's where a large part of where a certain part of this conversation is happening. That's been kind of co-opted by the teachers union lately, some parent groups. We have, another thing I didn't mention, we are in no way objective at all when it comes to issues in the neighborhood, and we fully support public education as a site. West Philly Local, we do not feign objectivity about certain issues. We're not the Philadelphia Inquirer. We don't pretend to be down the middle. We have interests in this neighborhood, and I'm not going to pretend that we pick sides. So that's it's our business. So that gives us the right, I guess, to do that. I'm not sure I would go with the citizen-started schools, and I'm not sure where I would. But I would be happy to have that conversation on our site. Do you know what I mean? I think that's what we can offer, is a place to have a conversation about this. I don't know.
Some of our neighbors have spun off and started their own group, Neighbors Investing in Child's Elementary, and it's a small, but it's a fundraising group. It's a lot of new families with new parents. Some of the kids they don't even have kids, or the kids are preschool age, but they've started to fundraise and do Kickstarter things for the school, improve the library. They're about to buy a bunch of teacher supplies, the school supplies, and things like that. So it's helpful. Like once you have a community and then you have an interest in one thing, they can kind of spin off and create something new. So if somebody wanted to start a charter school or some sort of homeschooling collective, it could start at one place and kind of just bubble off. And once it bubbles off, it kind of divorces itself from some of the zoning and politics that the mothership has. But there's lots of different ways that it could shake out.
Other questions? Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine Cavalier. I would like to address this mostly to Mike and Sarah. How is a good, quick way to get permission for photos on the site? I'm not going to be the Philadelphia Inquirer either, but I will be taking I've already taken a lot of pictures. I've already done a community blog for the PTO, and no one gave me any problems about photos for that because it was one elementary school. It really, I didn't do any social sharing. It was just for us. And people weren't very upset about photos. And I would say, I'm going to put this on the website, and they would be very excited about that, but now that I'm going to be out in the larger community, I don't want to go off the rails. Like, I want to make sure that I'm legally protected, and I want to do it correctly, and I'm not quite sure how to do it quickly.
You mean just pulling things off like?
No, I'm a photographer too, so I can actually generate my own product, but people's faces will be recognizable.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean taking pictures at a
event out?
Yeah. So thankfully our Constitution allows that. So you can get grief.
And I don't really want to.
Yeah, I hear you. I totally get it. Almost got the crap beaten out of me one time for taking photos on a playground.
Yeah.
Duh, right? I was taking pictures of a certain thing on a playground. It was a wall. It was a piece of a wall we were doing a story about. And somebody thought I was taking pictures of kids, little kids, right? And just had it, we had it out. That I wouldn't recommend, right? So I think seriously, I think there are things that are off limits to a certain extent, and children are one. Otherwise, the exact opposite. Really?
We get almost all of our traffic that has anything to do with politicians or civic news or anything gets ignored. Nothing drives traffic like Pee Wee football or kids' plays and everything like that. We used to be really hesitant about putting kids' photos up, but the kids flock to the website to find it. The parents flock to the website.
Not surreptitiously in a park. So when you're playing in a football game, there's an expectation that your photograph's going to be taken or play, right?
I just knew you didn't take pictures of kids in parks.
We do that too, right? We take pictures all the time of musical performances and stuff like that. It's just, I just learned a lesson that seemed obvious, but that's something I learned very quickly. Otherwise, you don't want to be a hard ass about it, but there is no expectation of privacy in public, and that's the kind of guideline, is the expectation of privacy. Right? I can't walk into a bar and start taking pictures of people, but if you're in a parade, I can take your picture. And if somebody doesn't want their picture taken, then we don't take their picture. Right? That's the way we do it.
I think, as a photographer for like 2 decades, I think that the general rule is common courtesy. Think of yourself. If you're a mom, would you want, so for me, I would walk up to someone first before I took a picture of their kid and just ask for verbal permission. I think that, as a business owner or even as a nonprofit or as a news site, you have to establish your own rules for how you're going to operate in what certain situations. But, general rule, if you're walking down the street and you're not trespassing, you're allowed to point your camera in any direction and take a photograph. You just have to decide for your inner, person as an individual, and then also for your publication, what are the boundaries that you want to go. And I'm sorry you had to go through that, but like 15 years ago, you had to stop taking pictures in parks with kids at like within a 10-foot radius, because that really, I think, was like 10 or 15 years ago is when those reactions started to happen, and in many cases rightfully so. So just to prevent that, if you ask, I will go up to someone and say, to an adult, and say, are you with this child? You're not making an assumption that that's the child, but if it looks like they're pushing the stroller and the kid jumped out of the stroller, I will go ask the adult, can I take a picture of your child? I'm with NBC 10, blah, blah, blah. And then if they say no, okay, thank you, and I move on. And if they say yes, then I can take their picture. If it's a news event, that's a different set of circumstances. So you have to kind of think through the circumstances you might find yourself in. If something happens around you, it's a news event, and whomever's in the frame, are you there to be a documentarian of that news event? But it sounds like, in this case, these are more staged potential situations, so you can think through, what is going to be the barometer that you're comfortable with. And I would say, like with children, that you would want to ask and just get that verbal okay, and maybe you even want to get a release, that you would have the person sign the release, because you're only an individual. You may not have the resources behind you if someone out of nowhere said whatever. But I think generally speaking, as we're living in a social media world, people accept that in public they may show up on a website somewhere because they were at an event, whether they were in the play or on the field. They may have been on the sideline, and their picture might be taken. So
size matters too. This draws a lot less attention than a big old honk.
Size of your equipment. I thought you meant the size of the photo. Okay.
Okay. Are we addressing the same question? Anyone? Yes. Okay.
Hello, I'm Kathy. Again, I'm from Transition Town Media, and just by way of saying what we are about is about creating resilience in the face of a future with lessening oil resources. So we're about creating, like relocalizing. We hope to relocalize agriculture. We actually have a lot of people that want to grow and are growing their own food. We support all kinds of practices along those lines, and I'm not very high-tech kind of person. I'm very low-tech. My car is 16 years old, and I don't care, etc. So I don't really embrace technology quickly as it comes along. So I like to use emails, and I also work with some people who are kind of very sensitive and sort of shy. And one of the groups we're doing is called Reskilling, where we're working to teach and share with each other how to create household and community necessities. So I'm running some workshops that are twice a month, and we're doing all this cool stuff with our hands. And so we have a member who's very shy and doesn't want to have her picture anywhere on the internet. So what I do is I take photos, close-ups. I just take pictures of what our hands are doing. And for me, that's what's really exciting. They're great photographs. We don't have to worry about who's in the picture. That's not really my interest in any way. So I just wanted to share that.
Response. Anything else on that particular question? Okay, then back there.
Hello, all right, sorry about that. My name's Matt. I run a Facebook group called Permaculture Philadelphia. It's kind of along the lines of transition town type stuff. But I have a question. I've studied agile development, and I really appreciate that different workflow model and using retrospectives and different meeting techniques. Excuse me. Because I think if we're really going to talk about bringing things down to a different, like local communities and really sort of move things up to the next level towards getting things done, we need to talk about our organizational strategies too. And I'm curious if any of your sites have included retrospectives or ways of having multiple different people working on the same projects. I'm curious about that.
Hey there. I totally agree. It's all about organizing it and like we were talking about earlier, getting people out into action. I'd say that I've used a bunch of these sort of sites. Blue State Digital is one of them, and there's a few others, and a lot of them are based on events that are upcoming events where you'll get a ton of people to sign up and RSVP, and maybe a few will show up. So yeah, I think the question here is having multiple people organizing on the same event. And one thing that I've seen in my Nextdoor neighborhood page is someone presented an idea, they just posted it up, and this could easily happen on a Facebook page as well. And if people like it, then they start commenting. So someone presented the idea of a block party, and within a few days, 8 people have been commenting on the details and how it should be carried out and where it should be carried out and what permits you need. And the NDC jumped in and they're like, you need these permits. So it's been really cool. I think just having it in a news feed in one place for everyone to see is great. And then also that was tagged in the events section. So, if people go over, they click in the events section, they can see it right there. They can see the whole discussion taking place. And I think, that's pretty much it.
Okay, let's do 3 more. Do you have another question?
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up.
Let's do 3 more questions. So, 1.
So I'm also curious about using, because one of the things that's been very helpful for me is the sort of like bullseye retrospective visual tool to sort of rate how well an iterative process works, or say an event. And I haven't found any tools online to do that, but I'm really curious about integrating that into like having a feedback cycle for events, besides just people posting pictures and saying it was great, but having those different breakdowns of what the culture felt like or what, because I never thought of the forum as it's like almost beyond the agile techniques because it's so open. But the feedback cycle, if there's anything like that you guys have thought about.
Comments?
I mean, so some of the mobile apps that we have at the city, like the 301 app and My Philly Rising, they do have a feedback mechanism on them, and we do review every single item of feedback that is submitted, and it does help inform the direction that we take the application. In addition, when there are, on the 301 app, when you get something fixed in your neighborhood, you can comment back to the city and either say, oh, you missed it, I was actually talking about this one, or thanks, it looks great. You can even upload a before and after picture, so to speak. And on the My Philly Rising app, you can comment on different events and talk in your neighborhood and have a dialogue there. It's like as close as I can. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it's a feedback mechanism.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the visual tool.
We don't have a bullseye.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I actually don't. I'm sorry. Okay.
Is that the one that you guys know this? The PHL 2035, the game. They ran this.
Community Planet.
Yeah. I think they do that. So have you seen that? I saw it. Check that out because they have all the data up. It's all open, and you could look at the. They have really cool visualization tools on that. PHL 2035. It was a chance for neighbors, and it happened to be in Southwest Philly, a chance to comment on the 2035 plan, the comprehensive plan for the city. And so they had this game. They ran a game that asked a bunch of different questions. You got points, which were translated into money. That money was contributed to the cause of your choice as a way to entice you to play the game. And then they visualize all that information. It's really pretty cool. So that's one I would check out.
Sure. Okay, 2 more questions. Gentleman up here.
And can I make a comment too?
Sure, go ahead.
Just when I was saying earlier about the party thing, I was saying an analogy, but then I was wondering, like, was I making a connection to something tangible? So when I was saying, like, if you have a party and nobody comes, then you go to someone else's party. So one way, like at NBC 10, that we tried to engage a specific community around what a community of people are already doing is we have an initiative called the NBC 10 High School Football Blitz weekly game matchup. So high school football is a huge thing in our community in the tri-state area. So we figured we'd go to where the quote unquote that party's happening, where those conversations are happening. Friday night football under the lights is huge, regardless of what community you live in. So every week we have a matchup between 2 schools, and our viewers and followers and folks who follow us on social media and who watch us can vote for the matchup that they want. And so then at the end or the middle end of the week, we announce the winner of that week's matchup on air, and then we go on Friday to that school to their pep rally, and then we cover the game, and then we air a show on Saturday night that has a good highlight reel of not just the highlights of high school football, but also the marching bands. So we're really trying to engage that community. So that's a real life example of saying, okay, well, we want to engage high school students, or we want to engage people that like sports. So we wave our hands and say, watch us on NBC 10, but no, we're going to where the action's happening. So that was kind of, that's a real life example of what I'm saying is like go to where the party is. And so now we've engaged an entire community of people that quote unquote may not have had a direct reach out and touch to our brand. And so, you can maybe duplicate that in a way that would be applicable to whatever your organization's parties are happening in your universe.
Yeah, we've been talking. You've been talking mostly about bottom-up construction of neighborhoods. Just a group of people getting together and building a neighborhood out of that. And one of the email newsletters I signed up for is the Bryn Mawr Gladwin Patch, which is apparently part of a larger organization called Patch, which is top-down. There's this giant company that tries to establish local newsletters with, why were those helicopters in the sky and so forth kind of questions being answered. And Patch is on hard times, unlike some of the developments we've seen here. So I wonder if you guys would want to comment on bottom-up versus top-down development of neighborhoods.
I got a lot to say about Patch. I have a good friend who was a community, who was a vice president of Patch. Sorry. I think Patch is it's the challenge that all these sites face that kind of have this, and I'm going to say cookie cutter, but I don't mean it to sound necessarily a bad thing, because somebody's got to do this, right? Patch is a cookie cutter hyper-local website. They all look the same. There's usually one editor per place, right? And I think there's a reason why there's not one in West Philly, and there's not one in South Philly, and there's not one in Kensington. And because for me, it's pretty obvious that they go where the money is, right? That's where, they start in the suburbs and they ring around. There's a bunch of them on the main line. There's one in Chestnut Hill, I think. Mount Airy, and so that's the question I have with any kind of advertiser-driven organization like we are, is at what point do you have to shape your content to satisfy advertisers? Patch, they can't make any money because they, I don't know why they can't make money, but it's quite clear they have no interest in my neighborhood because, or in other parts of West Philadelphia because, according to their model, you can't make money there. So it might as well not exist to them. That's my feeling on patch.
Then top down, also with every block example, the top, you're not in control of it. So patch could shut down at any moment. Every block you invest your time in someone else's organizing principles with their own VC and monetization and ROIs and all that kind of stuff that they have to get. When you can just use the free tools or email listservs or whatever to organize that way, so you're not beholden to that top, whoever the top is.
It's also clear, just in this conversation, that every neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood is different, and to try to take an approach that treats every neighborhood the same is just destined to fail, I think.
Okay, another comment?
He didn't ask a question in his presentation, but he made a comment about African Americans on Twitter, and I just wanted to share with everyone that African Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, but the Pew Research Center says blacks are on Twitter. 26% of Twitter usage is from African Americans. So clearly, as media people, we're all kind of somewhat media whores in some way because we're all here. But one thing about my job that I constantly am trying to do is just get analytics and information. And it's almost like I'm also becoming like a dual journalist and, marketer and, advertising mind, just to think how people consume. Because then when you understand communities, you can also kind of figure out how to tap into them. And you also talked about how you're using the platforms differently. And so that's an example of, Black Twitter is actually a phenomena, and it is now in the Wikipedia. So if you Googled it, you would actually see that it is, officially just recently being designated. And it's really just conversations that primarily U.S. African Americans are having about Black culture, and it's entertainment and sports driven. So there's a real audience there. So whatever you're quote unquote selling or whoever you're trying to reach, you want to think about how you can reach people on different platforms. But that it's more than a phenomenon. It is in fact something that's university professors are studying greatly, because it's this unique thing that African Americans have, smartphones, and are, as one professor said in one of these articles and studies about just the capability to use a smartphone, and for some reason African Americans this is a primary portal. So, and Twitter is an app that is easy to use on a mobile device.
Can I say something in regard to that? Well, one thing I found is that the marketing community, the private sector marketing community, is a lot better at engaging African Americans in their media usage than political culture and even organizing culture, which is separate from campaigns and stuff. Because corporate America doesn't seem to have a problem with getting these messages through. It's these kinds of organizational techniques where people seem to be outside or not affiliated, if you will. So I just want to make that point.
Okay, last question. Anyone have it that they want to ask? Going. Okay. Well, I want to thank our panel for taking the time to meet with us today. And also Andrew Sather, Andy Sharp, and Brianna Morgan for putting this together. So we'll be breaking down for about 15 minutes or so. If anybody's interested in coming out for a bite or a drink afterwards, please stick around, and feel free to stick around and keep chatting and networking with one another. Thanks again.